What if the person that you needed to be to achieve your largest goals, what if that person didn't exist yet? But hey, here's the good news. What if you could actually work towards becoming that person? And today we're going to talk about that, the art of becoming. We've got a 5-step process in the art of becoming. And you might be thinking to yourself, what does that even mean? The art of becoming. So that takes me back to a Jim Rohn quote. And this quote rings in my mind a lot. I was actually being interviewed about a month ago or so. And the gentleman at the very end of that recording was asking me, what's a nugget of wisdom that you've taken off all of your study, all this time in personal development and that type of thing. And so I just instantly went back to this quote from Jim Rohn. And the quote is, in order to have more, you must first become more. And in order to become more, you must work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And I'll never forget the first time that I heard that. That was in the Challenge to Succeed program. So I recommend folks go out there, get Jim Rohn Challenge to Succeed. If you can find it, you should be able to. I've got an MP3 downloads or the files on my phone. That's what I listen to. But that art of becoming, I've had to learn what that even means. And today, as I mentioned, we've got a 5-step process that we're going to take you through and help you with that becoming process, becoming this greater, bigger version of yourself, whatever your goals are. Super excited about this conversation. As always, have Greg Junge here with us today. We're going to dive into this art of becoming. Any thoughts on that so far, Greg?
Yeah, this is a great topic. I love the fact that, again, we can kind of put this on a spectrum where, you could become the ultra entrepreneur, like 100% go getter, that kind of thing. Or if you want to become, just a better walker in the morning or a better exerciser or, whatever that is, not to diminish one and, put another one on a pedestal. But, there are two different levels that you can kind of bring to becoming and everything in between. So it's not just for the, I'm going to start a business entrepreneur, you're becoming that entrepreneur. That's one example, but you could scale this down to a smaller habit or becoming, like I said, just somebody who drinks more water every day or whatever that looks like. So you can kind of create your own who you're going to become, that version of yourself.
Living into that person, that vision you have for yourself. When I was first going through this process, when I first started learning this information from Jim Rohn and Earl Nightingale and all the greats, the Bob Proctors, David Nagels today is a huge influence on my life. I really had to sit with, who is it that I wanted to become? Who is it that I wanted to be? Because where I was in the moment, I wasn't living up to my expectations, my full potential. And so I've had to sit with, okay, if that's the case, if that's true, who is it that the person that I want to be? And that goes back into that question that we ask often here is, what do I truly want?
Mhm.
So who did I want to be? Health, wealth, and legacy, and those 3 pillars for myself and for the Rich Mind podcast. Who did I want to be within those pillars? And I've had to really sit with, and so the journaling process again has been a very large help for me. I've had to picture myself stepping into bigger versions of myself, or at least different versions of myself. It's created some anxiety. It's created some challenges within. I'm currently, and we can get into it a little bit, Greg. I know you're going through some different challenges in your life as well, but we're currently stepping into larger versions of ourselves, which is creating some challenges from within. My resistance is kicking in, my chatter, my negative voice, my self-doubt, all of the things that I've had to work towards or work with to get me to where I am today. I'm still pushing up against those, because to me, that's how I see it. It's like it's the goalpost or the line. The goal line just keeps moving. It keeps moving further out, and as I approach that goal line, it's going to continue to stretch me, continue to make me push myself to grow, to become this next bigger version of myself. And with that, it creates some challenges. But challenges are opportunities. I heard that the other day. So I'm diving into a Bob Proctor program, and he was talking about paradigms. And one thing you can use to spin this is you can just look at challenges as opportunities. And that's what I'm trying to do. It's an opportunity to grow. It's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to meet new people, to have a bigger impact. All of the different things that I'm trying to think through in my process, in my art of becoming, That way I can move down the road a little bit further towards this bigger, better version of ourselves. The challenge that I have, the one thing I've noticed that I've seen in this, and so let me just maybe say it within my own family. So it was with my father. I talk about how the challenge of the relationship that he and I had was a little bit of a challenging moment as I was growing up. But one thing I saw is that it didn't appear like he was willing to push himself beyond his comfort zone very often, which is unfortunate because he was just as capable of achieving anything that he possibly could. But so what I've done is I've taken my vision or what I've seen or what I saw him do or not do, and I've told myself that I don't want to do that or repeat that process. So it's like, once again, I'm thinking from a legacy standpoint. I'm trying to show the Wilsons, if they care to watch, that you can stretch, you can grow, you can become a bigger, different version of yourself. Is it challenging? Yes. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. But I know that at the end of my time, whatever that time is, that I will feel better knowing that I gave it a shot. Whether
Mhm.
I fail, because I'm going to fail, whether I succeed, because I'm going to succeed, I know that if I don't continue to do this work on myself to try to push myself outside this comfort zone, I'm going to regret. And that's what I don't want to have. I have a feeling that my father had some regrets as he was on the verge of passing many years ago now, but I have a feeling that he probably had some regrets that I don't want that. I don't want that for me. I don't want that for you listening to us today. So hopefully this episode will resonate with you. As I mentioned, we've got 5 steps to work on this art of becoming. But yeah, so that was a little bit kind of where I'm coming from with why this episode is going to mean so much in this conversation, so much to me. So what about you, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm kind of going through some, career changes. I'm jumping back into real estate full time. So that's been, me just like we're talking about, just becoming or having that mindset of, I'm a realtor. So my phone doesn't really turn off. I have to set more boundaries. It's just me becoming that entrepreneur again, that, go getter. And yeah, getting out of my comfort zone for the last couple of years. I really didn't have to answer my phone or jump up when my phone rang, even if it was 7 o'clock at night or something like that. So, but yeah, like you said, it's an opportunity, and it's an opportunity for me to push myself and learn new systems and become a better, person, better realtor, better, just a better everything. So I love that, the opportunity part of it, because there's opportunities everywhere. And, whether we step into them or not, that's our choice. And sometimes, like you said, regretfully, we back off of some things that we, you know, want to move forward with. But then all of a sudden we're like, oh, this doesn't feel right. And we kind of talk ourselves out of it. I think we've all kind of done that. So, but then really keeping in mind of, well, who is the future version of yourself? What would he or she do? Regardless of, well, this doesn't feel right, or I don't want to do this. Well, if your future version, is um, if they're taking in that success, then they did the things that, you didn't want to do back then. So I don't know, just something to keep in mind between your present and your future, because what you do now dictates your future, obviously.
Love it. So tell me, maybe I'll poke you with this one and just get your response, but curious on how we are both stretching, we are both growing. We were having a conversation before we hit record today about kind of where we're trying to see ourselves, the different versions of ourselves as we keep moving forward with our lives. And as you mentioned, you're working towards becoming this all-star realtor down in the Florida area, which is fantastic. Talk about the discomfort. Talk about how that's making you feel, how you're the resistance that we both are going through. Can you put that into some context to maybe help some folks out there that are maybe at that beginning stages of realizing that, yes, I need to become a different version of myself, but they're allowing those negative worries, those doubts, the what I don't know what to do, I don't know where to go, all that stuff. It shows up for all of us. How are you handling that kind of thing at this point?
Yeah, the discomfort is real, learning, as a realtor, obviously, I did this previously, but I did this in a different state, and it was also 10 years ago. So technology was different, social media was different. And yeah, there's a lot of resistance. I've had conversations, I think both on and off the air, about starting and stopping certain projects. And yeah, you kind of get in your own head of, you know, can I learn this new system? Can I start from scratch? I don't really have a big sphere of influence. all these things that I would tell myself if I was going to convince myself to quit. These are all reasons why potentially could throw in the towel and just say, you know what, this isn't for me. But I mean, at least for me, it's knowing that future self because I've been there before as the successful realtor. So I know this is just growing pains and learning and kind of becoming a student again because I'm asking questions of how does the Florida MLS work? How does the back end work? Because, I can figure out 90% of it, but that last 10%, I have to become the student again and really say, I don't understand how this works. Hey, can you help me? Can you walk through this? And really just becoming curious and asking questions and not judging myself for not knowing because Florida's new to me, right? Like if I was a brand new realtor, from right out of the gate with zero experience, I'd have a million more questions than I do. So anyway, it's just recognizing the resistance and just moving forward. And one thing I'm trying to do is move my feelings kind of out of the way and just taking action anyway, because my feelings could stop me dead in my tracks if I really wanted them to. But knowing that I have to just, call up this person, ask them a question, how does this work? Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Just taking those actions and checking it off the list. So hopefully that helps with the feelings and the actions because that's one thing that really I feel like is catapulting me forward and just keeping things moving forward.
So yes, I've got so many things firing off in my mind as you're saying all that because all that resonates with me and the challenges that I'm going through as well. I'd be curious what your thoughts are, but this is kind of how it's like a pattern. It's a pattern for me, and I've gone through this pattern now several times with the podcast, folks, and that's why I'm trying to verbalize these things in real time. So I really want you to see kind of maybe the stories that we're sharing here and then try to internalize them for yourselves because it's not going to be the same, but it could be very similar. That's one thing that I've always tried to do is seek people that are either a little bit further down the road or even in the same point down the road that I can really just try to internalize what they're trying to say and how they're trying to work through it. So let me try to verbalize and put this into words as far as kind of how the pattern is for me is that I've gotten the idea. And so just a little context for myself. My wife and we've always wanted to be business owners, a wedding venue, business owners. And we're trying to visualize what that looks like. It's a big stretch. It's a big goal. It's a big. There's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts, a lot of parts of that. So what has happened is that usually when we get the goal like that, it's exciting at first. We start to move down that path of trying to figure out, okay, well, what does that look like? Where does that look like? You know what I mean? You start putting all those pieces together. So as you start moving into that goal, if an opportunity shows itself, the resistance kicks in. So my mind instantly goes to chaos, meaning I start wondering about how and when, and I start thinking about all the things that could go wrong versus going right. And it's like, I don't know anybody who knows, you know what I'm saying? My mind instantly goes to chaos. It starts throwing me into a loop of negativity because what it's trying to do is it's trying to shut me down in that moment from moving forward into this unknown because it is unknown for me. These opportunities that are showing themselves to certain people, these are going to look very small. Like it's no big deal. It's like, what are you even worried about? For me, in my family, it's relatively large because we've never done it personally. And we don't know of anybody, in our close proximity that has done it either. Mm-hmm. So it seems larger than life, the opportunity, stepping into it, the art of becoming. So what that's doing is it's sending my mind into a complete chaos to the point where I begin to shut down. It tries to get me to stop. And I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for you. So think through that today. If you're challenging yourself, if you're trying to become a different version of yourself, where is that chaos kicking in for you? Where are those voices, those doubts, those fears? Where are those voices, number one, coming from? Who are they? What are they? And getting control of them. As I've mentioned in the past, it's almost like an outer body experience. You can almost start to see your thoughts, see your ideas. Where are they coming from? And then challenging them, understanding that they aren't true. Are there going to be challenges moving forward? 100%. Are they catastrophic? No, they will not be. So it's almost like, what's the best case, worst case scenario? And if the worst case isn't like death, which I don't think it's going to be, so then we just need to keep moving forward. Like you said, Greg, it's just a matter of just having those feelings, separating the feelings from the facts, and just keep moving into it. That's been the challenge for me, is that literally as we speak, my mind is in chaos mode, trying to get me to shut down, to think smaller. And I just can't allow that to happen, which is why even having this conversation today is going to fire me up to keep me moving forward, figuring out who and how and the what and the when, all of those kinds of questions that are coming to my mind. They'll show themselves if I continue to move forward. I know that's can be uncomfortable, because it is uncomfortable for me as well, but that's been my process. And it sounds like that's similar to what you've been doing as well, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I was going to mention, like this happened to me yesterday. Previously, I would kind of, ruminate about like you're talking about, like what if this happens? What if, that happens? What if I can't figure out this issue? But yesterday, I was literally so busy doing the work, the actions of my real estate business that I didn't have time to worry, which felt great. Like it was such a great feeling because I don't know about you, but like, sometimes I get into a funk and I'll just sit there and worry and I'll let my thoughts consume me without stopping them. And like you said, asking them, is this true? No, it's not true. Like that's not a helpful thought, and just kind of delete it and move forward. I would get caught in those moments. And sometimes it would be, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And like, wait a minute, I got to snap out of this. But literally yesterday, I was just doing so many things. By the end of the day, I was like, wow, I did this, I did that, I got that done, I started this conversation. I didn't have time to even get in my own head. So that's why I say, if you can put the feelings aside and literally just do the tasks, you it'll be like I don't know, it's just like a weight lifted from my mind yesterday. And I woke up this morning, I said, I got to do that again because
Yeah,
it
I
felt
love it.
great. I felt like I got a lot done, moving things forward, but also it felt great not to sit there and think about things over and over again and ruminate like I sometimes do. So I don't know if you can, relate to that, Randy. I'm sure our listeners can, but for me, that was like a great breakthrough of a day yesterday.
Keeping your mind active with the tasks at hand versus worrying about, the anxiety of the worrying about a future, or even worrying about the past. That we talk about that a lot as well. When you put too much emphasis on a future that hasn't been created, which you have the ability to sit with in the moment and create it, which is what we're going to talk about today, the art of becoming. But yes, so I had a little bit of a down day yesterday, meaning I had some free time and my mind was racing like crazy. I was struggling to get control of it. That's where this chaos was coming to the forefront of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It was racing. And so I needed you yesterday, Greg. We should have been recording yesterday, but it sounds like you were in a flow, which I don't want to disrupt that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But my point being is that yes, yesterday was a little bit of a challenging day for me because I did have some idle time. And with that idle time, I should have found, so it's like you're helping me think through this in real time. I should have found more things that I could have, whether it been a different audio program, I could have plugged in some of the content, and even some old past content that would have helped me get back control of my thoughts and my ideas. I could have broken out my journal and started, getting some of the thoughts out of my mind, coming up with some of the ideas. Yeah, there's so many things I could have done, and like you said, I don't want to beat myself up over that. So I just need to learn from that. Once again,
Mm-hmm.
it's becoming. I need to become better at handling those idle moments when I'm not as productive positively as I should be. We're all going to have those negative moments. And I think, it'd be naive to think that we would never have those moments, because I think that they will come and go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's controlling them in the moment, which is what I'm hearing you say, which is super exciting, because when you realize that you can do that, it's almost like you can flip it on in an instant. We just need to get better at those processes. That's super cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's great. I think we're both on the same page with all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, let's jump into the art of becoming and really dive into the details here.
So the art of becoming, this will be a 5-step process, folks, that if you can just think through what we've already discussed so far here today, take these ideas, internalize them. This might be something else that you need to, after the end of the episode, save this one, but come back to it and work through this. This isn't information that's taught in school. Now, you can learn these things through other people, as I've done, but it's going to be the work that you've got to do for yourself, within yourself, hearing the chaos, hearing the things that we've discussed up to this point, and understanding that you need to work through that. You need to work towards becoming this better version of yourself. So, like you said, let's dive in. The first step is to define your future self. So, what is it that you are trying to become? in a health, wealth, and legacy pillars here of the Rich Mind podcast, you can probably start there. If you don't really have a direction for yourself at this point, where do you see yourself with your health and with your wealth, or even maybe creating a legacy for yourself in the future? That's what I've done. That's what my wife and I have tried to do together. We've had this vision of this property for 20 plus years at this point. We've had discussions about it. We've had visions about it, meaning we've dreamt about it. And so when the opportunity keeps presenting itself, it's like, you you know it's the right thing. You know it's time to move forward. That's when some of that chaos is going to kick in for myself. But first off, I want you to define who this version of yourself is. Do you see yourself maybe from a health standpoint, slimmer, more active, uh, more muscle tone? You come up with exactly what that is for you. What is it that you truly want? I'll just hit you with that question again one more time. What is it that you truly want? You need to get crystal clear, or as crystal clear as you possibly can, and understand that that is the beginning process of becoming, is defining who that version of yourself is and will be in the future.
Yeah, like we always talk about the self-awareness and where you are, where you want to go. Those are, the key factors of, like any GPS, right? It asks you, where are you? And then where do you want to go? And then it figures out the map and how to get there and everything. So yeah, just being self-aware and, like you said, write it down, journal about it, do what you have to do to really get that information to the forefront. But yeah, I mean, that's clearly the first step is self-awareness. We talk about that a lot on this podcast.
So I like that GPS analogy. So this would be a simple process you could do is if you've got a dream goal or a goal of a property, let's just say, you can always go shopping. You don't have to go through the entire step process of going through the buying process. It could be something that's outside your comfort zone today, but that doesn't mean you can't go shop for whatever it is that you're looking for. I've mentioned my vision of my 69 Camaro that I've got. Every now and then I'll get online and I'll shop for it. I'll look for it. I'll see, is it out there? Is, what I mean? I'll try to find it. I found it a couple of times. I should have pulled the trigger a couple of times, but I haven't yet. But the point being is that you can always go looking for this version of yourself that you're trying to achieve, that you're trying to become. That's been part of my process as well. So as I mentioned, once you do that more often, you will then see the opportunities, you'll see the right deals, and then you'll have the opportunity then to step into them as well. So let's move on to the second step. And the second step is to assume the feeling that it has already happened. An episode or two ago, I was going through the process of how I try to vision myself inside or in the 69 Camaro that I was just referring to here just a second ago. I try to vision myself driving the car, smelling the car, feeling the car, hearing the car. Assume the feeling that this has already happened. For example, this property that my wife and I are currently looking into, we are walking the property in our minds. We're trying to envision what it's going to be like to have our family, to have our visitors, our people coming in to just partake, to have fun, to enjoy themselves. We're trying to envision that literally every day or every moment that we possibly can, so that we can assume the feeling that it's already happened, knowing that we can then step into that bigger, better version of ourselves as we continue to push through this chaos, through this uncertainty, through all of these different parts of this art of becoming. How about that for yourself as far as the feeling, assuming the feeling?
Yeah, I love this part of the topic because I know Tony Robbins talks about this quite a bit as part of his priming, which I kind of do on and off a little bit. But yeah, he talks about exactly what you're saying, assuming the feeling of what would you think if you once you achieve that goal, or how would you feel? What words would you say? Who would you call with the exciting news? Hey, we just closed on this property. Guess what I'm going to be doing? That kind of thing, and really having those feelings kind of run through your body instead of just thinking about it, which is great. That's a good first step. But I think bringing in all the other senses, if you can, especially for me, it's like, who am I going to talk to about it? Like, who's my first or second call where I say, hey, guess what I just did? Or guess what I'm doing? And we just closed on this property where we're doing X, Y, and Z. I'm so excited, just playing out that conversation in your head of having your friend or family member be just as excited, maybe even more excited than you are. Right. So just assuming that feeling and hopping into that conversation, for me, that's one of the drivers.
Those positive feelings are going to help bring it to you faster than you could ever imagine.
Mm-hmm.
The negativity, if you can keep those negative thoughts, those doubts, the worrying about the how, that's one thing I've had to work on a lot, is not worrying about how it's going to happen and just living as if it's going to happen, just being certain that it is going to happen, which leads us into the next step. The third step is we need to act as if. So what does that mean? So we need to, as much as we possibly can, act as if it's already happening. Think through, what is it going to be like to be that person? The art of becoming, who you are becoming. What would that person do? How would that person act? What would that person look like? What would that person sound like? Now, the challenge that I have, even thinking through that in real time, is that you don't want to compare yourself to other people. You need to be you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get some feedback, or you can get some ideas of, if you're looking towards becoming a successful business owner or a podcaster or a realtor or whatever that is, you can find folks that have already been there, done that, and then you can just model after them. Don't necessarily have to copy, throw your own spin into it, but just model after them. Who are they? How do they show up? What do they dress like? What do they act like? Success leaves clues. I think I've heard Tony Robbins, we refer to Tony here a lot. I think Tony has said that several times. Success leaves clues, a breadcrumb trail of clues that if you just pick up on some of those things and start living it today, once again, it takes us back to that first part, or that second step, as far as feeling it as it's already been happened, but then start acting as if it already has happened. And then what would that be like? What would you do today differently? How would you show up? How would you be? That's really, once again, thinking through that is a little bit challenging, but if you get better at it through practice, you're going to start seeing some better results moving forward. That's been my experience. How about you?
Yeah, I love the act as if, and especially the caveat about not comparing yourself to others, but also kind of, emulating others. Like you said, success leaves clues. But one quick story here is act as if, now I'm doing some cold calling for being a realtor, and I've never done that in the past. I've always said, oh, I don't want to cold call. I hate when people cold call me. It's annoying. But if I go in with that attitude, I'm probably not going to bring a lot of energy. I'm probably not going to have great conversations. So it's one of those things. Well, you know, in this example, act as if, well, what if Tony Robbins was making cold calls today? How would he show up? He would show up with a smile on his face. You could hear the energy in, his words and everything. So not comparing myself to Tony Robbins, but what would Tony do? How would he show up? Because I know for a fact, he's not a cold caller or a realtor, but if you give him that task, he would jump in 100% and say, all right, I'm going to crush these calls. I'm going to have these great conversations. People are going to like me. They're not going to like me. Doesn't matter. So anyway, not comparing myself to Tony Robbins, but saying, all right, well, how would he act if he was going to make these phone calls that I, sometimes don't want to make, to be honest.
And then act as if. That's a great, great example. I
Mhm.
love that. That's awesome. I do that with the podcast. So it's like I try to think through the people that I listen to, even that I try to hear how they show up, ask the questions back and forth, the dialogue. And so, yeah, it's very similar. I love that. That's a great, great example. Thanks for bringing that up. So then the fourth is to challenge your old identity. So this is the chaos. This is going to be the resistance that you're going to be pushing up against as you start moving into this different, bigger version of yourself. Your subconscious mind is going to try to continue to shut you down as much as it possibly can, because it feels like it's an unsafe environment. It feels like this person you're growing into is a challenge. It's going to be pushing outside this comfort zone, and that comfort zone barrier, it just starts to create a bunch of chaos. At least it does in my mind. So I've had to continuously challenge that old identity of who I've been. It's just a choice. It's a mental choice that I can continue to work on. Conversations like this with you, Greg, the conversation we had before we hopped on and hit record today, that was huge for me, because that will help me as I continue to push through into this challenge. It'll help me challenge this past identity. So what I've done so many times in the past is I will get to this threshold of challenge. I will get to this threshold of negativity in my mind, and I would just shut things down. I've said that in the past before, but it's something that I'm not proud of. I've shut so many things down because I've allowed this resistance to stop me. And that's what I don't want to have happen for you listening to us today, now, or in the future. Don't allow this resistance to keep you from moving forward to becoming this bigger version of yourself. You've got to challenge that identity. How about how about for you, Greg? Yeah, tell me more. I know we talk about this a lot as far as our own identity as well.
Yeah, no, this is something that I had to deal with when I, lost weight, because I still had that old identity of being overweight, being unhealthy, being, not athletic, or, whatever those identities were. And I realized that that's the old identity. That's not me anymore. And that's something I really need to kind of keep telling myself. It's not like once I lost the weight, my identity changed and I was super healthy and excited and like, no, like it was just physically losing the weight. But like you said, you're in your own head. And one thing I've listened to some podcasts recently about was how your brain basically wants you to stay safe. It doesn't want you to achieve the goals and go out there and get out of your comfort zone, because it just wants to survive. And that's what you're talking about, is consciously making that choice of kind of overriding your brain and saying, you know what, you're going to be safe no matter what. I'll take care of you. I got you. But we're going to try this. We're going to do this. We're going to step out on this ledge and see if we can jump off and the parachute's going to open. So that's one thing that I've really kind of dove into in the past, like probably a couple months, is just the functionality of the brain, what it's trying to do or what it naturally does. But for this conversation, for achieving bigger and becoming more, changing your identity, that's on you. Like you have to consciously control your subconscious, which is, it's weird to say and kind of hard to do sometimes, but you really have to understand like how we're wired. And just, if you want to move forward, you really just can't rely on your brain getting you there, because your brain is going to put you on the couch and watch Netflix because it's comfortable, it's safe, and there's no risk. So anyway, that's a little, I don't know, more science than I wanted to bring to the podcast here, but that's my understanding of the science anyway.
But no, don't apologize. That's because to me that you're 100% accurate. And so it's a matter of taking the things we've discussed on this episode and even the previous episode. So your subconscious mind, its sole purpose is to keep you alive, keep you safe. And so this comfort zone and this barrier that you're pushing up against is what your perceived subconscious mind thinks that it's like trying to keep you safe. It's trying to keep you away from that point. That's where that chaos kicks in. That's where those self-doubts kicks in, and the limiting doubts, or the doubts and the fears and the worries that keeps you from moving forward, because it is safer. It is safer just to sit down and watch TV or not do anything. That's the easy thing to do. If you're listening to us, that's not what you want. You just need to continue to work towards figuring out who you are trying to become, which has been the whole process of as far as this discussion here today. So love that. Yeah. Don't apologize, man. That's fantastic. You're right. It's that subconscious mind. It's a tricky sucker, and it's trying to just keep us safe, man. I'm telling you. And so if we can do that, if we can win within, we can win without. And that's where that is was stumped from, as far as where I came up with that idea and that concept. So the last piece, the fifth step in this art of becoming, is persistence. And we've kind of touched on that throughout this conversation here today. The easy thing to do would be to shut everything down. And I would be the first to admit that's been my tendency in the past. But I've, through some control, through some personal development of myself, through incorporating friendships, like I've brought Greg into my life and other folks as well, I'm allowing myself to be persistent when these challenging times arise, knowing that they will, it's an ebb and flow. They will go away. I will have more challenges, different challenges, but it's a matter of just, it's becoming a master at my own mind, becoming a master of my own thoughts, becoming a master of, I'm in control. That's actually, I'm just thinking about that as I sit here and talk today, that's one thing I wrote in my journal this morning, was that I'm understanding and realizing that I'm in more control than I thought that I was.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that control takes responsibility. So I'm responsible for the outcome, but that is also going to bring in a lot of this chaos, a lot of these challenges. The becoming process, it's going to be challenging, but at the end of the day, the outcome, I have a greater ability then to become this version of myself, whatever that is. Or even if I can inspire someone within my own family, or even you listening to us, to become a better, different version of yourself. That's what it's all about. And I have to continue to think bigger. But yeah, persistence. I just wanted to definitely leave that one as the last, because without that, you're going to continue to shut yourself down. And we do not want that for you. I definitely don't want that for us, Greg and I. We're trying to continuously grow into this bigger version of ourselves. And it can be challenging, but it can definitely be done through persistence.
Yeah, I love it. Consistency, that's going to be key. I'd rather do something on a small scale over and over again for, the rest of my life than really push hard. Like working out, for an example. I know there's, a lot of people that'll hit the gym for 2 hours, 1 day a week, and then they'll never go back to the gym because they overloaded, they overwhelmed. But it's the people that, they show up and they go there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or even, do and work out in your own office or home, doesn't matter. But if you do 20 minutes every day, 5 days a week for 10 years, you know what I mean? It's part of your daily routine. You're just being consistent. And same thing with your thoughts and your identity. That's exactly what we're talking about here. And sometimes you have to remind yourself, or at least I do, of, oh, this is the person I'm becoming. Don't give up. Keep going. Move forward. You're going to thank yourself in the future. Like, these are things that I just tell myself when I have those doubts, or I don't want to work at night when sometimes I have to work at night. Just those little things, but being consistent. And for me, it's consistently reminding myself, yes, there's a prize at the end of this. I'm going to become better. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to be a better person, a better husband, whatever that looks like. So anyway, consistently reminding yourself of what that new version of yourself is going to be. And then going back to the other steps, what it's going to feel like, what it's going to, sound like, what your life's going to look like. I don't know. That's the way I kind of do it anyway in my own head.
Yeah. And it's very similar in mine as well. So yes, I appreciate you sharing that for sure. So, folks, let's recap these 5 steps to the art of becoming. And as I mentioned, you might want to replay this one, at least that portion of where we went through these 5 steps, and really start to sit with, get your journal out and start thinking through this person of who you're trying to become. Realize that where you are now does not have to be where you end up in the future. And it can be a relatively quick turnaround if you really hone in on these 5 steps and really go to work and make it real. I know it can. And the reason why is because I've done it myself. I know Greg's doing it himself as well. We've had some challenges and we're pushing through, and we're going to continue to push through with this persistence as well. So let's go through those 5 steps real quick. The first one is define your future self. Step 2 is assume the feeling. Step 3 was act as if. Step 4 was challenge your old identity. And step 5 was persistence. You've got to have persistence if you're going to achieve anything in life out there moving forward. So, folks, we appreciate your time and attention today. Hopefully you found value in this message. If you wouldn't mind sharing the Rich Mind podcast with your family and friends, Greg and I would greatly appreciate that. We're trying to show up and bring as much context as far as like real life examples, things that we're challenging ourselves with, some of the things that we're working through on a daily basis. As we've mentioned here several times, we always have conversations before we hit record and after we hit record, and we debrief each other on kind of what's going on. And it's interesting how the content that we're trying to produce, we're like living it in real time. It's like happening to us over and over and over, which tells me that we're on the right path because we're pushing up against some of these barriers, because those barriers on the other side of those, through my experience, that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to become. That's part of this process of art of becoming. So once again, if you would like to reach out to us, info@richmind.co. You can head over to richmind.co and grab any of the free resources we have available for you. But at the same time, go out there, work on this art of becoming for yourself. And I promise you, if you can do the work, go through these processes, you're going to come out the other side a bigger, better, different version of yourself. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I look forward to hearing those success stories in the future. So go out there, focus on being great. We look forward to coming back with the next episode again very soon. Until then, folks, bye now.